Kanu phenomenon, the Kanu issue, is one issue that can consume the Nigerian state if it's not well managed. Nnamdi Kanu has not committed any sin, which all the terrorists in this country have committed. Nnamdi Kanu is not as worse as Sunday Igbo. Nnamdi Kanu is not as demonic as the line of terrorists that are lined up in the north.
You know, as a person who observed the situation, especially considering the situation of this country, I think it is high time for all the statesmen to come up and appeal to the president and to the government to release Nnamdi Kanu. I'm up for a political solution. I support political solution, and I think Nnamdi Kanu should be released now so that we can have a more peaceful nation, considering the fact that the government is releasing so many criminals. So I think it is high time for us to also release Nnamdi Kanu.
As Nnamdi Kanu's trial is set to resume, Nigerians are watching closely.
For more than 4 years, I think he's a disgrace to this nation.
He has committed no crime. Nnamdi Kanu is fighting a just cause.
See how Nigerians are reacting now, especially from the Southeast. See how they are reacting. It's not good.
Personal level, I don't think that Nnamdi Kanu should be let free to be roaming around.
The government calls IPOB a terrorist organization that threatens national unity.
The giant of Africa is very wrong for us to be operating a very insulting and rubbish system. Even Boko Haram, they gave them amnesties. So why are they holding in Nnamdi?
As a Nigerian who respects the constitution of Nigeria and respects the three arms of government, the legislature, judiciary, and of course, the executive. Since a judge said, free this man, let's free this man and we can rearrest him again. He has many charges on him, but for any charge that he's cleared for, he can be released.
I don't know why they should be keeping him. That's why the people in the Southeast are making noise. So keeping him more there will increase the insecurity in the Southeast.
Some argue that Kanu's case has long moved beyond the courtroom and should be resolved politically.
Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is being detained in Nigeria, clearly for political reasons. One would have expected that if there were clear court charges against him, since the time he was initially charged before his residence was invaded, that led to his going back to exile and ultimately coming back by way of an extraordinary rendition. One would have thought that 5 years later, he should have been tried, possibly convicted or sentenced, but that has not happened yet. We think that everything surrounding his ordeal at this moment is political, and that's why many believe that the solution should also be political.
A political solution. That's one way many in Nigeria believe could address the situation.
Nnamdi Kanu had no business being incarcerated this long. I say it, and I'm very, very vehement about it. Nnamdi Kanu has not committed the kind of sin or the kind of atrocities, the kind of constitutional infraction any Nigerian has committed. Now, you have people like Sunday Igbo who was arrested with arms. Igbo is going about doing whatever he's doing. Now you have several kingpins, whether they are bandits, whether they are terrorists, or whether they're anything they are called, they are free and going about their businesses. Nnamdi Kanu is simply expressing his constitutional and humanitarian right. And so to keep on caging Nnamdi Kanu or incarcerating him is not only a disservice to humanity, it's also a great constitutional crisis that will come into this country. Let me take it from this point. How do we explain a situation? A man who has stood up clearly that what he is fighting for is the marginalization, perceived marginalization of a certain set of people in this country. And it has a historical anecdote. Now, what is the historical anecdote? The certain people, the Igbo people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, over the decades have been marginalized in this country. It is not a matter of allegation. It is not a matter of perception. It is something that is as strong, as visible, seen everywhere. And Nnamdi Kanu has stood up as the only person that consistently over the years and has said to everybody that my people are suffering, that my people are not enjoying what they are supposed to enjoy in the country called Nigeria. On account of that, he stood up and questioned the Nigerian state. Now, let's look at the legal side of it. This is a man that was arrested in 2022. 2021. And when he was arrested, what was he arrested for? The charges were terrorism, treasonable felony, and managing an unlawful society. Now, those are the three things that he was accused of. Now, they went on trial. By 2017, the court granted him bail, and he came out. By 2022, when they attacked his house. They attacked his house in Omaya. The natural instinct for somebody to survive is to see how he can survive. It's just to find a way to exit the environment where he was being attacked. And so he fled the particular scene, and he's fled the particular scene. He found himself in the UK or wherever it is. And on account of that, they said he has run away. Now, the point being made is that while he was there, an arrangement was done to get him from Kenya, where he went to and brought him back, and brought him back to the country. Since then, the legal issue has remained the way it is. It's not been moving forward. It's not going back. There has been a sustained effort directed by not only directed by the state, but there's some political contending interests within the Nigerian state, within the Igbo elites, within the political class to keep to put Kanu down. So, in the helicopter view, the Kanu phenomenon, the Kanu issue, is one issue that can consume the Nigerian state if it's not well managed. It is beyond the rhetorics we keep on talking about. The Kanu issue is an exemplary issue of to show how we can manage a country. And if that is not done properly, if it is not done methodically, if it is not done with a sense of genuineness on the part of the Nigerian state, to see how they can have a political dialogue to manage the situation, it will definitely create more crisis. Of course, as we speak now, the Southeast is agitated. There is a plan of a protest that is coming up. Now, the nature and the reason the entry of that particular protest, that we're also trying to analyze. But one thing remains that there is a very large number of population of Nigerians, whether they're from the Southeast, whether they're from the South, whether they're from the Southwest, whether from the South, from the North to the North. Everybody has one particular focus now to get Nnamdi Kanu out of the place. Then you ask yourself, why is it now that the whole focus, the attention is for Nnamdi Kanu to come out? Is it for the purpose of securing a political capital? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. Why would it be at the timing now that is happening? Well, whatever timing it is, we're all interested. What we're interested in is Nnamdi Kanu should be let off hook and let him rejoin not only his family. He has a right, because as we speak, his health is bad and he has to go and take medical treatment wherever it is. So finally, regarding Nnamdi Kanu, my position is Nnamdi Kanu has not committed any sin which all the terrorists in this country have committed. Nnamdi Kanu is not as worse as Sunday Igboho. Nnamdi Kanu is not as demonic as the line of terrorists that are lined up in the north. They're everywhere. Nnamdi Kanu is not as evil as the bandits that spread now. That you have a bandit that will come and have a meeting with the Nigerian state operatives. Yet Nnamdi Kanu, who did not carry gun, who did not do anything that is inhuman to speak like these sets of people, is kept incarcerated in a cell. It's time for Nnamdi Kanu to come out from the prison and we can move forward for a political dialogue on how we can reintegrate the Igbo people back to the nation state called Nigeria. Now you need to find yourself, who are the governors of the Southeast? How did they get to where they are? You're talking about Mba, who just defected to APC. You're talking about Alex Uti. You're talking about Soludo. You're talking about several of the governors in the Southeast. Yes, Francis Wifre and Hope Uzodinma and the rest of them. Now, if I ask you one particular question, in your based on the assessment of all that has happened, do you think that Hope Uzodinma would support the release of Nnamdi Kanu? There's no way he would support it.
Why do you think so?
Why I think so is because before his incarceration, you saw the battle. Not only the media battle, you saw the punches, you saw not only the verbal punches, you saw the political volleys that was going on between himself and the governor of Imo State. Now, not only that, he sees Hope Uzodinma sees Nnamdi Kanu as one of those who had made Imo State ungovernable for himself. So no right-thinking or rational governor will want Nnamdi Kanu to come out. But it is time to understand that this is a statesman. I am now a statesman that governs the people, and these parochial things should not be features or factors that I should look into, but rather it should be things I will consider in a broader perspective. So to your question, why is it that people like Hope Uzodinma, who is a governor, will not want Nnamdi Kanu? I've just addressed that. He will not want, because that time he made it in a way that it becomes very uncomfortable for him to govern the state. So Hope Uzodinma said. Now, for other governors, you need to understand the background of Oti himself. Oti is not a very noisy person. Oti is a very sound, professional, laid back, but organized political leader that is doing much in Abia, and that is his constituency. I do know of a certainty that OT has been at the background doing a whole lot for Nnamdi Kanu to come out, even though he might not come out in the media to talk about it. But there's a lot of work that's been going on the ground to see how Nnamdi Kanu will come out. First, it is his constituency, because that is where he comes from. Secondly, it will also be a political plus for him. Thirdly, it will now also bolster his chances of re-election. Fourthly, it will put him in a position to even get closer to the president, and also to see how they can project the Igbo cause. So I see him being at the forefront of this particular campaign, but he is being also very, very cautious in his movement. Now, for people like Wunfre of Airborne, I can see neither here nor there where he is. Of course, you should understand his political mentor, Umahi. Umahi is vehemently opposed to anything that has to do with the Biafran cause. So I do not see any difference. I do not see any impact. I do not see any way his boy to speak, or his political son will want to go to want to do what he doesn't want to do. So that's for Ebonyi himself. Now for Soludo, you know Soludo's position regarding this. Soludo does not take kindly to anything that has to do with this Biafran cause and all that. And he has voiced that over time. It's not hidden. His position is very clear. Now to your question, why is it that the Southeastern governors are reluctant to come out forcefully to now, as an umbrella body, to see how they can get Nnamdi Kanu out of incarceration? The answer simply is this: everybody is scared of his position of governor, and that how impact on him, either during his re-election or their continual governance of the particular state. That is the reason. They're just being selfish about it.
Hello, my Nigerian people. We dig into one of the Nigeria's most complicated political knots: the continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous people of Biafra. The country remained divided. Some Nigerians call for his unconditional release, while others argue that the law must take its course. Yet, even among those who seem to support his release, the motive and language often raise eyebrows. Recently, just like the video you just watched, Adamu Garba joined the call saying, "Release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu the way you pardon some other criminals." On the surface, that sounds like support. But when you peel the layers, it feels more like an insult than a plea. The moment you say other criminals, you automatically place Kanu in that same category of those that have been convicted for 1 or 2 offenses. So for many Igbos, that is not just disrespectful, it is deeply offensive. They see it as an attempt to delegitimize what they call or what they view as a political or ideological struggle, not a criminal act. So the question becomes, was Adamu Garba genuinely calling for peace, or was he speaking in the language of power, offering a fake olive branch laced with context? Because in Nigerian politics, words are rarely innocent. They are carefully chosen, often to sound conciliatory, while reinforcing the same old bias. Now, step back and look at the larger picture. Since Nnamdi Kanu's rendition from Kenya, extraordinary rendition because that is the holistic term, he's been held in custody, in DSS custody actually. His case dragging from one court to another with endless adjournments and reshuffled judges. 5 years later, 5 years later, he remains incommunicado, locked in a process or in a way that seems to go nowhere. And this raises the fundamental question: if he has truly committed a crime known by law, why has there been no conviction for 5 years? At this point, it is obvious that Kanu's situation is no longer purely judicial, it is political. The courts have done what they can, but the outcome seems to depend more on the will of the government than the rule of law. When a man is detained for years without resolution, it becomes clear that something else, something deeper, is at play. Even the Kenyan court has questioned the legitimacy of his rendition, which puts Nigeria's handling of his case under international scrutiny and jurisdictional problem. That alone tells us this issue has spilled far beyond the courtroom. It's now a matter of diplomacy, of reputation, and of political courage. But what about the Southeast governors? Kanu's supposed own people in power. Why have they remained silent or indecisive? Many Nigerians believe that if the Southeast political leaders truly wanted Kanu out, they could have made it happen long ago. Yet, their stance has remained undefined, swinging between sympathy and silence. So here lies the hurdles of politics involving Kanu's case. Some say it's fear for clashing with Abuja, fear of losing federal support, or fear of being branded a secessionist sympathizers. Others believe they simply don't, see political benefit in standing with Kanu, especially as his popularity sometimes overshadows theirs. And then there is the argument that some of them quietly preferred his continued detention because his presence in politics would challenge their authority at home. Whatever the case, the absence of a unified Southeast position on Kanu's release makes the entire situation look confused and complex, and that confusion fuels public frustration. Now, let's revisit something many forget. Before his arrest, Kanu met with several Southeast politicians and community leaders. His requests were surprisingly basic: good schools for Igbo children, a working seaport, functioning hospitals, and a better life for his people. But those talks went nowhere. Days later, his home was attacked, lives were lost, and fragile trust between him and political elite was broken. From that moment, the establishment began to portray Kanu not as an activist, but as a threat. That is how politics in Nigeria works. When dialogue fails, propaganda takes over. The same politicians who could have, turned his passion into policy instead turned him into a symbol of fear, the monster they call him today. Ironically, by, demonizing him, they made him a hero, a living hero, a voice for people who feel unseen and unheard. Today, Kanu is more than a man in detention. He is a symbol, one that represents a deeper crisis Nigeria hasn't resolved since the end of the Nigerian Civil War. The question of belonging, equity, and justice. And that is why this issue is so volatile. Mishandle it, and it could ignite something far bigger than anyone anticipates. If the government keeps him locked up indefinitely, resentment will deepen. But if they release him without addressing the root causes, they neglect the economic imbalance, the frustration of the Southeast, then the cycle will simply restart another form. That is why some analysts like us insist that only a political solution, a well-defined political solution, will resolve this. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu inherited this problem, and right now, he seems stuck. He cannot fully release Nnamdi Kanu, yet he also cannot justify keeping him forever. Every day that passes without a decision exposes the government's lack of strategy. If we are honest, there is a bigger danger here: the moral erosion of the Nigerian justice system. Because when justice takes 5 years and counting without direction, it stops being justice. It becomes a persecution. That is a punishment before conviction. Or should I say persecution before prosecution. At the end of the day, this is not just about one man, like I said. It's about what Nigeria stands for. The case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is the mirror in which the country's democratic integrity is being reflected on. If we fail to handle it with justice and fairness, we risk tearing open wounds that never truly healed. And here I come again, the uncomfortable truth. Nnamdi Kanu's fate will not be decided by law alone. It will be shaped by politics, courage, and sincerity of leadership. And unless both the federal government and the Southeast elites confront this issue honestly, the instability surrounding his name may outlive them all. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share, comment, and of course smash the subscribers button for more. And until next time, stay political, stay revolutionary, and fight for your own emancipation.